Do you remember that old Michelin commercial that said there's a lot riding on your tires? Well, consider for a moment a vehicle this size and weight moving at 80 miles an hour, and the only thing that's got it in contact with the ground are 4 tire contact patches about the size of your hand. There is indeed a lot riding on your tires. More importantly, there's a lot riding on your customers' tires, and they're depending on you to make sure the tires are up to the task. That's the subject of this edition of The Trainer. Well, that ought to do it. That tire seems to be just fine. No, I know, that's not a proper inspection. Tires have a tough job. Number one, they have to support the weight of the vehicle. Number two, they have to transmit any inputs from the driver, whether it's steering, braking, or acceleration, to the road through that little contact patch I told you about earlier. You know, the one about the size of my hand? That's the only way this vehicle is going to stay safe and under control. Doing an inspection like this, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for your personal cars. It's certainly not good enough for your customers' cars. Now, there sure are a lot of numbers on a tire, but this is the one I want you to look for. It's the DOT, or registration number. Pay attention to the last 4 digits, in this case, 4314. That indicates the week and year that this tire was manufactured. In this case, the 43rd week, 2014. So why is that an important piece of information to know? Many tire manufacturers recommend that the tires also be replaced regardless of wear on an age basis, anywhere from 5 to 10 years, depending on the tire manufacturer's recommendations. Something you might want to keep in mind when you're doing your visual inspection of your customer's car. Here down south, we get a lot of residents that have a car that slightly sits most of the year until they come down in the wintertime, and those tires often will age out before they wear out. Okay, the next step is to check the air pressure in the tires. The tire pressure should be checked cold. If the car has been run for more than a mile, the tires are too hot to check and get an accurate reading on. Let the tire sit for at least an hour to get that cold pressure reading. Now, of course, many cars today are equipped with Tpms systems. Those are very helpful in locating a tire that's at least 20% underinflated. And if it has a dash mounted gauge, in other words, a display that tells you how much air pressure is in every single tire, that's a good thing to look for as well. Do I always wait for the tires to get cold? No, I've got cars to work on and bays to keep filled. We're stay busy, we know that. But I do look for anything that's under what all the others are. That's usually an indication of a problem. And if your experience is anything like mine, nearly 80% of the cars that I check have at least one tire that's grossly underinflated. That we want to get fixed and find the cause, get it repaired, so we don't have a problem with a customer sitting on the side of the road. Now, if you are chasing down a TPMS sensor problem, you're going to need to use a digital gauge, one that's a little more accurate than the standard pencil gauge you probably keep in your pocket. We're at a point now where TPMS has been around long enough that a lot of these sensors are going to start losing their battery life, getting weak or completely failed, and they may be providing erroneous readings to the TPMS system. In other words, you got that little telltale yellow light on, but you can't find a problem with any of the tires. Okay, the next step in the inspection process is give the wheel a shake. You're looking for any wear in the suspension and steering components or in the bearing assemblies. Then run your hands carefully around the outer circumference of the tire. I say carefully because I've had cases where the inside shoulder has been worn right down to the steel cords and you can't see it when the car is sitting on the ground. Rub your hand over that steel tread though, you'll find it. What we're looking here for is not only signs of wear, but anything abnormal wear. Okay, next we're going to check the tire wear, and we're going to do that with a tread depth gauge. Set the gauge all the way out, and then rest the flats on either side of one of the grooves, and then push it down until it comes flat to the top of the tread bars. Remove it, take your reading. Note this, not just in the center, but on either side as well, and in at least 3 spots around the tire. Again, we're looking for abnormal wear. And what type of abnormal wear patterns can you run into? Well, there's a few common ones that we'll talk about. A lot of wear here in the center of the tire generally indicates a tire that's been run overinflated. It's allowed that contact patch to narrow in relationship to the contact patch overall, and it's wearing out the center of the tire first. On the other side of the coin is a tire that's underinflated. Well, that causes the contact patch to wrinkle, kind of like this, and it's going to wear out either side of center rather than the center. Another very common one is what we call a sawtooth, and that's when each of these tread blocks are angled slightly and in the same direction, whether in or out. That's usually a problem with the toe angle, the alignment angles. Chopping is when there's hills and valleys along the surface of the tire that you feel as you do that circumference rub I showed you earlier. Those are generally indicated problems with the suspension, worn shocks, other alignment components, things you have to go a little bit deeper in to locate the actual cause. And then once in a while you'll find some tires in a front wheel drive car or the rear wheel drive, the drive wheels, where they've got some strange flat spots on them. Then you find out it's a young driver and he's just doing burnouts. That we can fix pretty easily. Just tell Mom. You know, I want to share one story about a customer that I had some time ago, a tire tale, if you will, that really stands out in my mind even to this day. She brought the car in for a routine oil change. I racked the car on the bay. As soon as I took the weight off the tires, the right front tire blew with a sound that you could hear across the entire shop. Everybody else came running to see what the problem was. Once we got the car up in the air, you could see where the entire inside shoulder of the tire was worn away to nothing. Something you're not going to see by just casually taking a look at it with the car on the ground. The hole that was left behind was big enough for me to put my hand in. Now imagine for a moment that this young lady had been driving that car on the interstate at 70 miles an hour with 2 babies in the back seat when that tire decided to let go. What would have happened then? It wouldn't have been pretty. You know, we're professionals, and as such, our customers depend on us to advise them of unsafe conditions that exist on their vehicles, to help them keep them and their families safe while they're driving that car or light truck. So if you're not already doing even these rudimentary inspections, please start doing them today. You're going to make your customers have a lot more faith in you, and who knows, you just might save a life. That's all the time I've got for this edition of The Trainer. I'll see you next month.